This is Nintendo Power Uncovered, the show where I plan on reviewing the covers of all 285 issues of Nintendo Power. From the great to the baffling to the just plain lazy, we're going to talk about them all. We're continuing our adventure with the first 3 issues of 1991, featuring incredible classics like Star Tropics and Mega Man 3, as well as the final Nintendo Power Strategy Guide. A lot of people love these games, but are the covers any good? That's what we're gonna find out in this episode of Nintendo Power Uncovered. Oh well, here it is, the issue that killed the Nintendo Power Strategy Guide. Now, just as a quick refresher, Nintendo Power decided to make the transition into a monthly format in June of 1990. That's just 7 months before this 4th and final strategy guide hit mailboxes. In that time, they managed to cover both Super Mario Bros. 3 and Final Fantasy, 2 games that I would say were in desperate need of that type of specialty issue. They also dedicated a whole issue to Ninja Gaiden, a good game that probably didn't need a strategy guide. Now they're back with something called the 4-Player Extra, a guide that takes a detailed look at NES play-action football, Gauntlet 2, Nintendo World Cup, Swords and Serpents, Super Spike V-Ball, and of course, Ivan Iron Man Stewart's Super Off-Road. And hey, if you like seeing old school box art fly by the screen, then you're in luck, because they also previewed multiplayer classics like King of the Beach, Spot the Video Game, Top Players Tennis, Magic Johnson's Fast Break, Championship Bowling, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and Mule. Okay, just in case it wasn't obvious by now, this strategy guide is a whole lot less focused than the previous issues. Yeah, all these games could be played using the 4-player NES Sattelite adapter, but when the topic is broad enough to cover everything from football to Freddy, you know you've cast too wide of a net. And let me tell you, this cover isn't helping. I remember getting this issue at the time and wondering why anybody would need a strategy guide for an 8-bit football game. It wasn't until I opened the magazine that I realized that it covered soccer, volleyball, basketball, and even that 7-Up mascot. And it's easy to see why when you look at this cover. I mean, just look at it. We get 4 generic football players playing a football game right next to a football and a football goalpost. Literally the only 2 things on this cover not related to football is space and that NES satellite Nintendo is trying to promote. They don't even mention that the strategy guide is going to cover more than NES play-action football. Guys, you can see how it's deflating after coming off of Super Mario Bros. 3 and Final Fantasy. But even if you strip away that initial disappointment, I'm not sure this cover conveys the message Nintendo was going for. I mean, nothing says 4-player football action like being stuck in space, am I right? No, and this cover does little to drum up excitement for this football release or the dozens of other games featured in this guide. Oh, and this is yet another example of the magazine showing people in space without any kind of protective gear. Something we saw with both Mega Man 2 and the Final Fantasy Strategy Guide from just a couple of months ago. I don't get it. Does Nintendo Power think you can breathe in space? It makes no sense. Ugh. Needless to say, after this debacle, Nintendo decided to go to the monthly format that they enjoyed for the next 266 issues. In a contest to see who can make Mega Man look the dumbest, Nintendo Power is quickly catching up. And to think, it wasn't that long ago that I proudly proclaimed that Mega Man 2 was among the top magazine covers of all time. It was so good that it outclassed even Capcom's own box art. Well, apparently those days are long behind us because this Mega Man 3 design makes me seriously question whether or not we need an endless string of annual sequels. There are 2 things I know for sure based solely on looking at this cover. One is that Mega Man 3 takes place in a post-apocalyptic wasteland where the skies are always orange and the grass is made of astroturf. I also know that Rush, that's Mega Man's trusty pooch, is now like 70 years old and unable to stand or eat on his own. Regardless of how you feel about Rush's frail state, I think it's safe to say that Mega Man's best friend is more of a liability than an asset. Our hero should be chasing after the escaping Dr. Wily, and this should be the scene of an epic battle. But instead, we see Mega taking his aging dog out for his morning constitutional. Well, at least we'll know who's responsible when Dr. Wily gets away with taking over the world. Thanks for nothing, Mega Man. Between the December 1989 track and field cover and now this month's Star Tropics design, I'm starting to think that Nintendo might be sending us a message. Every single time the temperature dips below freezing, Nintendo's artists warm themselves up by creating these wildly out-of-season covers. Look, they're in denial. I think they're just overdosing on bright colors instead of the reality of shorter days and cold nights. I wonder if that's how we got that trippy Tetris cover. Despite the warm colors and tropical setting, there's nothing simple about this month's Nintendo Power design. Much like a lot of the magazine's best covers, this one improves the longer you look at it. There's a submarine in the shallow water, birds playing a piano, a comet in the distance, seashells on the beach, and look at that, it's one very excited dolphin. But just as my body started adjusting to the warmer climates, I noticed something even more disturbing than piano keys on the beach. One of those birds down there has a skeleton for a head. Guys, forget the submarine invading my privacy because I'm now officially freaked out by that bird that's looking straight at me. Man, if only I had something around here more powerful than a yo-yo. So, despite my misgivings about Star Fox, I'm largely impressed by this cover design. The skeletal bird, submarine, and comet are intriguing enough to warrant a closer look, and the tropical island is tempting even in the dead of winter. Best of all, Nintendo's artists moved away from clay models, opting instead for paper cutouts and origami. I don't know if it's one of the best, but this is definitely one of Nintendo Power's brightest covers. Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Nintendo Power Uncovered. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. And here's the question I have for you. How would you rank these three covers? Do you think I got them about right, or was I way off? Let me see your grades in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back tomorrow with more covers. That's right, it's another episode of Defunct Games Decides, and this time around, Lauren and I will be talking about remakes. Trust me, it's a fun conversation, so tune in on Friday for that. In the meantime, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.